Welcome to the deep dive. Forget the headlines. Today, we're really digging into the latest shifts in the Ukraine-Russia conflict. We want to pull out those vital nuggets you need to truly grasp what's happening.
That's right.
We're focusing specifically on reports from June 21st and 22nd, 2025, a period of, well, really intense activity. It reveals quite a lot about how this conflict is evolving.
Mm-hmm.
Our mission, as always, is to give you that shortcut, that way to get properly informed without drowning in noise.
Absolutely.
So these past, 48 hours, they've been a pretty brutal reminder of this conflict's relentless intensity. Russia seems to have launched some of its most widespread aerial assaults we've seen in a while.
Yeah, widespread and deadly. We've seen a real wave of Russian drone and missile strikes. They've hit everywhere from Chernihiv, Donetsk, to Dnipropetrovsk,
Right across the country, then.
all the way to Odessa, Kharkiv, and Kiev, too.
Mm-hmm.
And the human cost, well, it's been significant. We're hearing at least 7 killed and over 20 injured in some areas.
And Odessa specifically.
Odessa reported 1 civilian killed and 14 injured. There was also damage to housing and, interestingly, railway infrastructure there. Kharkiv also got hit. Civilian injuries, damage to homes.
And I saw a report about a drone strike in Chernihiv Oblast, Nizhyn district, on the 21st.
That's right, yeah. Tragically killed 1 man there. It just makes it so clear these aren't just abstract military targets. There's a devastating human toll.
Absolutely devastating.
And honestly, the most impactful detail recently comes from Kyiv. It's being described as one of the deadliest attacks of the year there.
The scale sounds immense. What kind of numbers are we talking?
Russia launched somewhere between 80 and 86 Shahed-type drones. You know, those one-way kamikaze drones. Some apparently even had decoys to try and confuse the air defenses, plus multiple crews and ballistic missiles.
86 drones plus missiles. That's incredible volume.
Yeah.
How did Ukraine's defenses cope?
Well, this is where it gets complex. Ukraine's air defenses claimed an 82 to 88% interception rate, which is, frankly, astounding by traditional standards. It shows real advancements.
That sounds like a huge success rate then.
It is, but here's the brutal truth. With that sheer volume of drones Russia is sending, even a small percentage getting through, well, it can inflict devastating casualties. And that's what we saw. 28 killed, 134 injured in Kiev.
God, that's awful. So even with amazing defense tech, the swarm tactic can still overwhelm.
Exactly. It's a really sobering illustration of how these newer drone tactics work. They can overwhelm even highly effective defenses if the numbers are big enough.
It's truly sobering. That sheer scale just results in tragedy. It really highlights this brutal back and forth we keep seeing.
It does.
But underneath all that chaos, there's also this strategic game of moves and counter moves going on, isn't there? Something kind of quietly reshaping the battlefield. Ukraine certainly hasn't just been absorbing these hits.
Not at all. No, they've been very proactive. In fact, one of their most significant recent counter moves really highlights this escalation in their deep strike capabilities. They called it Operation Spiderweb.
Operation Spiderweb, what was that?
It was a deep drone strike, hitting Russian air bases way back on June 1st. Reports suggest it destroyed between 10 and 13 strategic bombers.
Strategic bombers, so long-range aircraft.
Exactly. Crucial for Russia's air power projection. Losing that many is a significant blow, and it definitely forced Russia's hand.
Okay, so how did Russia respond to losing those bombers?
Well, their direct response has been quite visible. They've started building these extensive protective shelters at multiple air bases. They're trying to, mitigate future drone strikes.
So hardening their bases.
Right. But think about what that means. It isn't just about preventing immediate damage. Ukraine's long-range attacks are forcing Russia into this costly, extensive defensive posture. Resources they could be using offensively.
Are now tied up building shelters.
Precisely. It's a strategic drain. A significant, though maybe less obvious, win for Ukraine, playing defense in a war they started.
That makes sense, but the counterplay isn't just in the air, right? We're also seeing reports of Ukrainian forces engaging Russian troops inside Russia, in the Kursk region.
Yeah, that's another crucial development. They're actively engaging, estimates say around 10,000 Russian troops there, and holding roughly 90 square kilometers inside Russian territory.
Holding territory inside Russia, what's the strategic thinking there?
Well, the immediate aim seems to be forcing Russia to divert resources, divert personnel away from other critical fronts, like Donetsk. Basically, tie down their forces.
Okay, disrupt their deployment.
Yes. But beyond that, it sends a powerful message. It shows Ukraine's expanding operational reach, their willingness to dictate the terms of engagement, even on Russian soil, It's a proactive stance.
Okay, so pulling all this together, what does this mean for us trying to understand the bigger picture? Beyond the daily headlines, it feels like we're seeing a shift, an intensifying drone arms
I
race.
think that's right. Volume is becoming just as critical as precision, it seems. Russia's strategy looks like brute force through swarms, even accepting high interception rates because some will get through.
And Ukraine responds with these deep strikes and cross-border actions.
Exactly. It's a clear cycle, a sort of strategic tit for tat. Ukraine's long-range attacks, like Spiderweb, force Russia into costly defensive moves. And these ongoing cross-border actions inside Russia signal that increasingly proactive strategy, keeping Russian forces occupied.
So Ukraine's trying to protect its civilians and deter Russia, while Russia keeps up the aerial attacks, even while there's talk of peace negotiations.
Right. Amidst all this peace talk posturing and new talks are apparently anticipated soon, the aerial assaults continue. It's a complex mix.
This deep dive really underscores just how dynamic this conflict is. Intensifying drone warfare, these direct strategic responses, the evolving cross-border fights, it's constantly shifting.
Yeah, and what's really fascinating here, I think, is how these intense, localized military actions, they're not just shaping the immediate fight, they're influencing broader strategic investments, diplomatic postures,
Yep.
especially with potential new peace talks on the horizon.
That raises a big question. Yeah.
It does. What does this blend of, military escalation on the ground and in the air alongside potential negotiation, what does that truly signify for the future direction of this conflict? It's something to really think about.
That is a powerful thought to leave you with, something to definitely mull over. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive.